Hello, I'm the Guitar Geek, and I'm here with Thomas Blug. So nice to meet you.
Big pleasure to meet you.
Thank you very much. You are here playing, you've just come off stage, and you were playing through one of these, is that correct?
Yeah, it's my Amp1. That's the 100-watt 4-channel nanotube-driven guitar amp. And this is actually a prototype of the Mercury Edition, which is, it will come out the second half of this year. I'm not exactly telling you when, but it will be before Christmas. I tweaked a few things with this. It's basically the same thing. It has the same features, it has the same 4 channels, but sound-wise, I got some feedback from the market, and also for myself, I thought I can go a bit further now and make it even more flexible, even cover a wider range that I could cover before.
Excellent. I've played through them. I don't know if it's the same one as this, the Mercury, but you've done a very clever thing there around the Messe hall, pretty much everywhere.
Well, we're in Germany, and being German, I have many German friends. And I'm in the industry for a long time too. So the thing is, they just asked me if I would, borrow them an amp for the show, or they even brought their own amp with them. So that's cool. I mean, having an amplifier or especially having an amplifier format that you are not so familiar with, I personally am very happy to see that. I mean, of course, I'm proud because it's my own product, but for me, it's also important that people see this format being used. But most people still don't believe it. Just yesterday, I bumped into the bass player of the Rolling Stones.
Yeah, Daryl.
Yeah, Daryl Jones, and he's here, and he's like, he was shocked. I mean, he has seen a lot of things, and he has. Of course, he's not only a bass player, he's been around for ages, and he played in many bands and has. But when he heard this, he was like shocked. So you never know.
Well, I'm not the bass player of the Rolling Stones, but I was also shocked. And it's what gathered me was how easy it is to use.
Yeah.
And it was just very, very simple. I was playing most of my guitar stuff in the 90s when I was a little bit younger, and stomp boxes were the way back then. Yeah. And for me, the guitar industry has gone too detailed, and you're changing too much.
See, the thing is, engineers and companies, they try to deliver the next and the next and more and more and more. And hey, when it comes back to guitar playing, it's about reducing to the one tone that is your tone. Yeah. And of course, it's okay to have a few variations and a few effect things, but in the end, it's about one tone that is you. So you have to find your tone, and then you can, once you master that, you can do the next step further. But the whole industry is like, especially the digital stuff, is like offering too much. Yeah. And this is the nature of the technology. Yeah. In digital technology, you build a platform, and it doesn't matter to the platform if you have one sound or if you have 1,000 sounds. And then, of course, everybody goes, I have more. Like Yngwie Malmsteen says, but I'm not totally convinced that more is more. So, being a gigging guy myself, these are the tour dates of this year fixed already. So as you can see, 50 or something. I want something on stage that I can still master. Yeah. So when I'm in the live situation and I feel that the room needs a little bit more treble, I dial this in on this treble control, and it will actually affect all my 4 channels. If I want a different treble for an individual channel, then I do this on the custom controls. So, you have to do your job first to set this up, and it takes a while to make everything in balance and stuff like this. But once this is done, you only deal with these controls here, which is the big knobs and the easy knobs. And this is my concept, because, in a live situation, there is no time for a second time.
Exactly.
It's here, now and then, or you fuck up.
Yeah, you can be forgiven on a recording, but live,
sure,
you've got to nail it, haven't you?
Yeah, and so, part of my concepts will always be to make something that has like a 2-level thing. One is to have the ability to be a live tool, and the other thing is also to offer flexibility. So that's my kind of confession, what I like. I totally agree on guys that go boutique and have only one channel and whatever, no pedal, and which is fine. If you are that kind of Michael Schenker, I'm Mr. Maybe have a wire or nothing, it's cool, But I think we have seen too many of these players that, are too technically in the way they play.
I've seen many of them.
Yeah, I mean, I see the guitar playing. When we all started, or when the rock music started, it was about the music, and then it became kind of a sport. I mean, I'm not blaming Steve Vai to be one of a good sportsmen, but Keith Richards is a more successful guitar player because he has a unique style. He plays less, and he made more money. What's wrong about that?
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's put it that way. I like a good balance of both, and but that's my personal taste. And some people are totally into progressive, and they are progressive. But you can see the audience is the audience, and sometimes they play in clubs in front of 50 people. I'm not saying everything needs to be super popular or big. I think there's something for everybody, and also in products. If you have a guitar amp, my guitar amp is how I like to voice it, how I see the world, but that's my contribution to the market, and from my point of view. And of course, there are other people that have different tastes, which is great. And I always shake other people's hands when they have a real character and say, "Hey, man, it's a great thing." And for instance, just the first day of the show, I bumped into Christoph Kemper from Kemper, and we know each other for ages. And at the end of the day, everybody had a pile of empty beer glasses like this, and yeah, it's like he's one of these digital geniuses, and I'm not using his product, but I like what he does, and we can share thoughts and whatever. It's good,
It's really good.
Yeah. So he, to me, is an interesting person on the market, and I highly respect what he does. And so he does the digital things, and I do my stuff, and then there's a boutique stuff that has also character. And all the guitar players are different, so it's about who can pick his own, or how to get your own sound and find the right gear that fits to your style.
Exactly. If we were all the same, it would be such a boring world.
No, we all would play AC/DC.
I think we do, yeah.
That's the other great thing about music. There is still a common level of certain things. Some people might not like the vocals of AC/DC because it's too high, but when you reduce the vocals, the energy of AC/DC is hard.
It's raw. It's rock and roll, isn't it?
Exactly. So if there's rock and roll, there is AC/DC somehow.
It's when I pick up a guitar to demo them here, I'm generally playing an A chord and then it's AC/DC again.
Hey, and if you listen to AC/DC, what is this? Well, AC/DC goes back to Led Zeppelin, and Led Zeppelin goes back to some other stuff. And this is it's the whole history of music. And I think those people are. It's what I like about AC/DC again is some kind of puristic thing. They reduced the beautiful Led Zeppelin wide range of music with the folk stuff and the tricky rhythm stuff, and they just condensed it to rock and roll. Cool. Hey, that's a job too.
Yeah, it really is. It's hard to make things simple.
Exactly. So
I think that's kind of what you've done here.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. If you see it that way, it's fine. I just do my thing like I am. I guess AC/DC wouldn't be a good prog rock band, so they have done their thing, and I do my thing. And so that, I mean, they rule. I hope this stuff rules for other people too.
Yeah, me too. Let's talk a bit more in depth about this. So we've got volume gain and the master volume.
Yeah. So the volume here is the volume for the clean channel. And the clean channel needs a volume, since my concept is, if you go back to old Fender amps, they simply had the volume control. And when you turn the volume control on a Fender amp, it also changes the sound, especially if you have the bright switch. And this is like a Fender amp with a bright switch on. And you can get like a cranked Fender at 10, and you can get a real clean Fender, from like up to 5, 6 maybe, depending on the guitar. And there are different clean tones. You know, there's the clean tone, and there's also the Rolling Stone style, you know, hey, saturated clean tone, you know. And these different tones are already, you know, in this little control
just with
here.
one knob.
Yeah. There is a tone control for the clean tone on the side here that gives you, on the one side, the smoother sounds of, like, I would say more bassman amps, and on the other side it's like it's more like a 10-inch speaker with a higher voice clean tone, which has a bit more sparkle to it. So it's more woody or more sparkly. And again, this is a matter of taste, and it depends on your guitar. You know, if you have a guitar that needs extra brightness, blah blah, blah, or if you're a jazz guy, don't use the sparkly side. So that's
nice.
that's the clean.
That's the volume.
Yeah, and then we have a gain control for overdrive, actually for all the 3 overdrive channels, and a master volume. But each of the channels has its own volume and tone, so each channel can be balanced to the clean channel and to the other overdrive channels. So it's like, imagine like a tree. So this goes this high, this goes higher, and or you lower. You can do all the settings, but you have to make your balance between the sounds on the side.
So you set these first,
yeah,
and then this is for live tweaking.
Exactly. And once, you know, if that fits, if you needed a little bit more gain because your guitar strings or whatever are a bit dead, you just tweak this knob and all the overdrive channels have a little bit more gain.
Next up we have a master.
Yeah, the master is the overall master for all 3 overdrive channels. So, you know, you have the clean channel, if this is right, and then you can, you know, simply have any more thing on everything that has drive here. And of course, in between the channels you have dial-in on the side. So, from my experience, once the balance is sorted out, it's reducing, and after a while you never touch these on the side anymore. If you do, you are in the studio, but not in a live situation.
So you get your sound with this, and then live, everyone tweaks, everyone.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's great to have it so easy. It's what I like about this is it's easy to get the music from your head to your guitar out of the speaker and to the ears.
Exactly, and I mean, this format makes it also very, very easy. It's universal power, you know. I got questions like, hey, does it work in the States? And I say, hey, it's universal power. You plug it anywhere in the world and it works. And it actually does sound the same.
I see, so it's 100 to 240 volts.
Yeah. I mean, it's a switch mode power supply. That's the modern kind of thing. I mean, your laptop works anywhere in the world as this amp does. And so, you know, I've been there with tube amps, and I know if you forgot to switch the transformer, it will burn, you know. And then you play a beautiful tube amp in Australia, and they are supposed to have 240, but because of the long distance, they have higher voltage, and the plate voltage on the tubes goes crazy, so the power amp tubes just blow. And all this, you know, modern power supply doesn't have any of these problems. Whatever comes in will be converted to exactly the same voltage as the circuitry needs. Yeah. So, you know, forget about all these esoteric problems from the past. The next thing is, it's 2 pounds, 1.2 kilograms.
Yeah?
Yeah, and yeah, everybody likes that.
It looks a lot heavier than it is.
Yeah, yeah, but I try to reduce it to the max, and actually there's a little bit air behind these switches, but all the rest is packed. But I'm using SMD components. SMD components are the very small analog components, like resistors and capacitors, but in a smaller format. And I'm doing testing of different capacitors, like we've done in the past with, you know, foil and ceramic and blah 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 and silver micas, and I'm testing these little SMD style components, which are 10 times smaller, also for sound purposes, and then choose the right combination, just like the boutique guys. But it allows me to bring in 960 parts on a PCB.
Wow.
And it's just like, yeah. And you have I mean, you cannot really see it, but I'm too old to actually read the values there. I have to wear glasses. But my young engineer who was there, he's 25, he actually can still see that.
Oh, wow.
And he takes the pin set, so I'm not doing the soldering anymore.
So you get out of that quite easily.
Yeah.
Just play the guitar and do the rest of it.
Yeah, sure. And I like my role much better because I can challenge other people. And that's a nice thing to do as well. And they like it. I mean, it's like, I like to work with people, like making music. Also, developing a product is like working with a team, you know, working with different people, working in different fields, and having. I find this very, very interesting, and also demanding in a way of psychology. How far can I go without, you know, getting people upset, or how much energy do we get as a team, you know?
Not so Steve Jobs far, I hope, but...
I'm not. I read Steve Jobs. No, I'm not that kind of nerd, and I'm a more softer guy. But I have my means to get people to do what I want. I try to convince them first that they want it, and then it's automatic. That's you know, it's like in a band. If you have a vision, you have to find the right people that want to do that, and then they go for it. And if you look at great bands like Led Zeppelin, for instance, there are 4 great individuals. Everybody in the band was a great player, but they were even as a team, they had this extra dimension. It's not like there's one great whittler here and the rest is the cheap hired musos that should make oof clack clack and they want to. That's boring. But if you know, Led Zeppelin, for instance, is like interaction between guitar and the drums. It's unbelievable interaction between the guitar and the singer from a guitar point of view, and then you know the job of the bass player that also plays keyboard. I mean, that's a high level team, and this is what I'm. You know, I try to have something in my company too. It's not a one-man show. It looks like it is a one-man show. No, it's a small team. It's like a band. My company, I have employed 4 people, and the rest is freelance. Because I cannot afford more and I don't want more. It's like, I don't want to have a big band or an orchestra. In an orchestra, you have to make big sheet music, everybody, you know, and some conductor. I'm not that kind of guy. When I go to my company, I'm not coming there at 9 and morning watch if everybody wants. They have to do their work. If they like what they do, it's okay. And if they don't get it, I have to find somebody else.
That sounds pretty fair, yeah.
Hey, you know, freedom, I'm about freedom. But it comes, with freedom comes responsibility, and the responsibility is like in a band. If you are a team in a band, you know, one guy takes a solo, the other guy has to back him up, and it's like communication and understanding that, and that's the beauty of the psychology in a band or in a team or in a company. In everything, I can see electronical things that I find in life, and I see things in life that I can put in the electronics. I can see things in the music, and most people think it's just the music that I'm doing that brings me to some ideas in the product. It is everything. Everything is connected to everything, and the older I get, the funnier is it to understand it. It's it's great.
It's when those things click, when it all works together. And like when you have like a good gig or a not so great gig, that good gig is just because something magical has happened.
Exactly. And there is no recipe, no real true recipe. You can make a good environment, but you have no right to expect that it happens. It is, and the what's the English word? The more you step back from the expectation that it needs to happen, the easier it gets that it happens. You know, if you put too much pressure and too much expectation on some things, it's shit. The best gigs I've ever played were little club gigs where you come in and say, oh, we haven't played for 2 years, that's cool, have a beer, set list, I don't know. Okay, let's see, we start, and then warm, and you feel it, and then...
It's in there somewhere, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And it's, yeah, and this is where, for me, the music comes from, and it's not like somebody has a music stand here looking at it and, oh, I play everything correct, but where's the music, you know? So, and yeah, and this is happening in anything.
So you're putting that thinking into this.
Yeah. And you know, another thing is, if you look at the amp, I still have all the options. So the amp can be used as, replacing a head. This was, my first attempt, like, how can I get somebody to take this serious? And it's like, maybe you don't believe this is an amp. Maybe you have this as a backup, okay? You don't have your 20 kilograms, whatever, tube amp as a backup. You take this, and then you see. And what happened? The first guy that had a blown tube amp use this was like, well, that's actually not that bad. And then once you start to trust this thing, you discover more, and then you get more confident. And after a while, it's like, do I need my tube amp? And so this is, this is one way how to get into this new format. The other thing is you can put it on the pedal board. This.
I'll put a close up in there.
Yeah. So that's my pedal board here, and I could put my amp finally on the pedal board, which was reducing the cabling a lot. Before that, I had my amp head sitting on the cabinet, and I had long leads for the input, and I had long leads for the effects loop, and I had blah blah blah. This much of cabling, extra cable back, and now it sits all on my pedal board. It's one thing here, and my whole pedal board has now the weight of a tube amp, my big pedal board. I have small pedal boards which I can carry like this, but the big one has the weight of a tube head, and my cabinet is even lighter. So, and with my guitar in a gig bag, I can go to the car in one go, step into the club, play my gig, have a few beers, say bye-bye, and don't have to come back.
The older I get, the more I want to do that. I want something in this hand, something in this hand, on my back. I don't want to go to, it's like shopping, you want to make it in one trip.
Absolutely. The extra round takes much more time. And, for me, time is something precious, because I enjoy having a good time, but certain things are a waste of time. Yeah. So a waste of time, I don't need.
There's no time for wasting time.
That's true.
Can we talk about the EQ section, the reverb, and then over here?
There's a 3-band EQ, bass, middle, treble, the very, very standard stuff. What's different on my unit is there's no a real interaction. On a traditional tube amp, you would expect, you turn the treble up and then you're losing mids. With my unit, it's like you turn the treble up and the mids stay the same. You just get more treble. And that's the same thing with the other controls. So it is easier to set up, I believe. And reverb is just a simple control for more or less reverb. And that's the thing about the Mercury Edition. I improved the reverb here. I was always saying in the first version of Amp1, the reverb is the reverb. It sounds like a spring reverb, but it's not. It wasn't that wet because, okay, at that time this was the best reverb I could get for the money to put in this. And now I had time, so I worked on the algorithm with an American guy who actually worked on the chip, and he improved that, and I improved the analog side a little bit. So both ended up to have finally a great reverb. From we had an okay reverb to we have a great reverb. So, and just by putting more time into development. So
round on the back.
On the back we have the input, which is obvious. Then there's send in return for your effects loop. The effects loop actually can be switched from parallel to serial mode, and it has a pad function. So there's a -10 dB, +4 dB push switch. Don't twist it. It's just a switch with a screwdriver. You hear the click. You shouldn't do this like every day. I mean, you decide which kind of effects you're using. If you have pedal effects, you go to the -10. If you have proper modern effects, you go to +4. And actually, the -10 I've done only for myself for the Boss delay, the DD2, which I love. There's some magic because in the old days, these first generation of digital delays, they sounded warmer. And I used them for the last 20 years. And they don't work with a standard effect loop, so I have to have this very low level.
So you put that on there just for you?
Yeah. Well, if it doesn't work for me, why should I make the product, At least somebody is happy. I have to start with myself. I'm selfish. I start with myself.
That's your name on it, so you must do that.
And here is the recording out, which is actually also usable as a headphones out. And this is using the internal speaker simulator, which is analog. I also have a product called the Blue Box. The Blue Box is an IR-loaded digital speaker simulator that offers more cabinet types and even more quality and precision, I have to admit. But this is as good as it gets in the analog world. I use 7 filters, even self-resonating filter for the low-end stuff. In the analog world, it's a matter of taste, but you don't get any further than this. That's why I started with the Blue Box. Anyway, but it's really good. It is. Most people go, wow. But okay, if you are the studio guy, get a Blue Box.
Right.
Okay, next thing here is the speaker outs. I have 16 ohms and 8 ohm speaker out, so I can match the impedance from the guitar cabinet. It is important to match the impedance, especially with this amplifier. If the impedance would be lower, let's say you would have an 8 ohm cabinet plugged into the 16 ohm socket here, my power amp would put out more power than 150 watts. It is rated 100 watts, so 100 watts is pretty loud, and the 150 watts is kind of the peak range. But then I have a protection circuit, and then, you know, if there's not enough load on the other end, the power amp stage puts out too much, and then the protection circuit will cut the sounds like broken cable. No, it's a protection circuit. So make sure you have a proper load here. At least the ohmage of what is on the sockets. And if it's more, it's not a problem. 85 watts is still enough. So if you have like 36 ohms or 24 ohms, it's not a problem, you know. But not the other way around. But it wouldn't matter if you don't play at full volume. So then, you know, power amp stage is the power amp stage actually is a combination of Class D, what everybody uses in PA systems and bass amplifiers. But Class D by itself is not guitar. It doesn't breathe. It's just making energy in a very efficient way without creating the heat. And so I combined this with this sub-miniature tube. The sub-miniature tube is the driver of the whole thing, and this together with the eye feedback that creates the interaction with the speaker the way like a tube amp does it. So I actually have a power soak built in that you can control with the remote 1-foot controller or via Midi. I have no room for any knobs here, but it's inside here already. And this is the power soak is in a way part of another element that makes this power amp stage work like a tube amp, because a tube amp has a natural limit, you know. So a 22 watt amp has 22 watts and it feels like 22 watts, and a 100 watt amp has 100 watts, and then, you know, of course, depending on the capacitors and the power supply, it's a bit stiffer or a bit, you know, if you have a rectifier tube or solid state tube, it's a bit different, but still there's a physical effect on that. And if you just have a classic Class D power amp stage, it's like plain power or and that's definitely not guitar. And all these little elements, the tube and that kind of thing, work together to make it feel like the real tube power amp. This socket here is intelligent. It has 3 functions. It takes a standard foot switch, like a double foot switch. One foot switch does a clean overdrive and the other one makes the boost switchable. If you take our remote 1 pedal, it will detect this, and then the remote 1 will be the commander taking all the switching functions, and the remote 1 also gives you all the access to all the parameters, and you can make this presets. And the third use for this is using our Midi 1 adapter, which is an adapter that has the 1/4-inch jack, on the other side a 5-pole Midi, and then this becomes a Midi input. And any standard Midi pedal can then communicate with the amp, and the amp can do Midi learn. So it will kind of memorize settings from the amp. I'm talking about the channels, the boost, and the reverb, and recall this via Midi. and you have even control changes. So that's the concept here again. The amp itself doesn't come with Midi. First of all, there's no room for a Midi socket. Second, nobody. Some people don't need Midi. Nobody needs Midi. That's wrong. I'm not using Midi. Some people are very happy using the 4-cable method, Midi, and some digital devices in combination, and it's killer, and it's very versatile. But for those people who don't need Midi, they don't have to bother with it. For instance, Miller Anderson, he's a blues player. He played at Woodstock before Carlos Santana. He plays my amp too. Does he want to use Midi? I mean, reading the word Midi here is just enough for him.
I don't think he used Midi at Woodstock, so he's not going to need it now.
No, definitely not. So he doesn't need that. But as you can see, the concept here is having a unit that can be used in many different ways. In a very, very basic way, and you just get what you need, and you already have a little bit more because there's 3 overdrive channels. It's not only 1 channel. So, but hey, who cares? There's an option, but you don't have the feeling like I have paid too much money for the stuff that I don't need. But on the other hand, I can still offer a way how to use the Amp1 with the 4-cable method, and let's say like a Boss GT100, GT10, or the new Helix, or whatever's on the market that offers all the stuff that I'm not offering. They build great effects, and they have the MIDI, and they have the switching, and they have the programmability, and then you use this as your real amp, and have the other device doing what you need and what you want.
Can you also use this if you were to go from, say, a Helix or something like that? Can you go into the power amp via the FX return and use just the power amp?
No. This can be used with the 4-cable method. So for those who don't know the 4-cable method, if you have an effects loop, which means send and return, and you have the regular input, you can have like effects before the amplifier, which is the classic stuff for let's say boosters, overdrive pedals, and I like even phasers and the vintage style, because it sounds more authentic when this kind of modulation effects are in front of the amp. It sounds like it was back in the day. And then you have the other type of effects like delays, reverb, and maybe chorus, which sounds different at this point in the effects loop. And then you have all the options. You have, in the digital world, it's easy to make a program. So you hit one button, and you have your clean channel with a compressor and the chorus and the delay on a certain setting, and you have a delay maybe in the front of the amp and one in the effects loop, and you can go crazy with this. And then you hit the next button, and you have all the options. Totally different setting with a modern sound and no effects at all. Blah blah blah. So it is possible, and. Why is it possible? Because it's just an amp. It's just like a standard amp with an effects loop. Yeah.
I think so far the only problem I have with this is that you didn't make it when I was playing guitar in the 90s.
Well, that's a bad problem that you had. I mean, I wish I would be a guitar player in the 60s, but so that's my problem. I think I would prefer to have a Jaguar E-Type back in the days, playing my 61 Fender Stratocaster and playing at a Marquee Club. But I was born around that period, and when I was at the age playing guitar, it was back in the 80s, and everybody was playing keyboards, Human League. And,
Guitars.
I remember that. And so somehow we are, or most of us are born in the wrong decade.
Seems to be, yeah.
Yeah, but who cares? I'm so happy I can do my thing even if I'm not on the peak of the wave. I'm very happy to achieve a few things. I was as a guitar player in a German band, being the opening act for Michael Jackson. I mean, another legend being dead. I was there. I've been there, and I'm happy to have been there. But I'm very happy to do different things now. when I do my little small club gig and do the real music, and it's not like 100,000 people, and of course they are all waiting for Michael Jackson. Who cares about a guitar player, you know? The only good thing is, you know, even in the perfect situations like that, I was lucky because we had 3 female singers like the Spice Girls back from Germany, called Tic Tac Toe, and they had a phase where they had to change dress, so they gave me a guitar solo as long as they needed to change dress, and sometimes it was even 3 minutes and longer. Yes, in front of 100,000 people. So, you know, at least I was a rock star.
3 minutes.
For 3 minutes?
Every show.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's all good.
Yeah, so I'm really enjoying the passion you have for the music, and the passion is coming across in this product. I have played it at the Messe here many times. I'm really in love with the vintage channel. Yeah, that's my favorite so far.
I agree, because let's put it that way. I'm at home, I have a collection, I think it's 10 old Marshalls, and this is like my heart and soul and my bread and butter. I do have Fenders, I have Voxes, I have Mesas, use Kettners obviously too, and but my heartbeat is very, very British.
Mine too.
I do understand, and of course my passion is deeper on that end. And that's the thing about the Mercury Edition. After 3 years, I have more contact with other players, and you know, I played with Viktor Smolsky, who is an Engel endorsee, and he's like a killer metal guy, and I got more feedback from this end, from the hard rock and the tight players and the fast players. So the Mercury Edition has this beautiful vintage character on the one side, but the range is a bit more expanded to the modern styles where I'm not coming from. I totally understand it, but now, you know, having done this and getting the feedback and giving this in other people's hands and seeing how they play with it and how it feels, I could improve this kind of tonal range for them. And guess what? They are happy, which makes me happy too. And I still got my tones. I'm just on the other side of the tone here. You know, if I go like, oh, okay, sorry, that's Victor or somebody else, but not me.
Awesome. Let's talk about pricing. Yeah. So, what are we looking at compared to the original edition?
It is the same. I'm not sure. Maybe it's 20 or 50 euros more. We haven't decided on the final price, but it will not be. You know, we have a few different components here which affect the pricing, and this is a prototype. So, you know, when I've seen the first 50 really pre-production ones, I can fix the pricing, but it will be about the same price.
That's excellent. Thank you very much. Wow, well, I'm going to get some shots of your guys playing. I've got some shots of you playing, and it has been awesome talking to you. And thank you for going so in depth. And I think we have possibly, I don't know, I didn't expect so much and so in depth. But what I love about the product is it's nice and simple to use, but it has the power if you need it.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong about lunchbox amps, and I totally understand this kind of new way to play tube amps, because Jimi Hendrix was playing from stage and the Beatles stopped playing because the audience was louder than the band, and the PA systems didn't exist with that kind of power back in the day, but they needed a 100-watt amp on stage. Today it's different, but still in certain situations you need headroom and power. And therefore I said, you know, 100 watt is 100 watt, let's offer the 100 watt. And it's possible, and it's here, and it's still not a problem, because if I would make this 50 watts, it wouldn't be lighter. You know, 10 grams. Who cares about 10 grams, you know?
Okay, well, if you want some more information about the Amp1 Mercury Edition from Thomas Blug, then please check the item description down in this video. For the moment, Thomas, thank you once again. It's been a pleasure.
Big pleasure, yeah.
Bye-bye.